I want to thank you all for joining. I know you're coming from all over the world, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hopefully it's not the middle of the night for any of you. I did want to just welcome you all and introduce myself. My name is Valerie Fred. I work in the Career Development Office at the Yale School of Management. I do work very closely with this particular Master's in Asset Management program, so I'm really excited to be in front of you today. I know it's hard in this webinar format. We can't all see each other, but hopefully I'll get to meet many of you kind of over the summer and throughout the program. You should see two links, hopefully, in the chat that Julie popped in. We may or may not actually get into both of those links. Maybe you've already been in them, but if you haven't, these are things I will reference throughout this session, so you may just want to make sure you have them, potentially bookmark them. But again, I've been here at the Yale School of Management for just over 2 years working with this program. I've been in early careers and campus recruiting for almost 30 years, which is crazy to think about. Pretty much always in financial services, mostly on the corporate side, spent a little bit of time at another business school doing higher ed kind of career placement, but mostly on the corporate side. I have about, maybe 20 minutes or so of quick high-level slides that I am going to go through, and then we'll definitely leave time at the end for Q&A. I believe there is a Q&A button that you should all see on your screens where you can submit your questions at any point in time throughout the session, and then I'll try to get to as many of them as I can at the end. I believe you should also have access to the chat. If you don't worry about it, but I was going to say if anybody wanted to introduce themselves and let us know where you're dialing in from. Like I said, I know you're coming in from all over the world, just kind of fun to see where everybody's coming in from. But with that, I'm going to sort of kick off. So again, I'm here representing the Career Development Office. You've probably been in a lot of other webinars. I know you heard from Toby, or maybe you watched the video, but I know that was something out there. There's been a lot of different sessions. Maybe you've had some in-person sessions with admissions. But again, here we're going to talk primarily about kind of career development, what that looks like, what kind of support is available to you, how you might work with this office if you were to join this program. And starting off, just really kind of talking about the overall mission of both our career development office, which you can see is to empower dynamic careers, to explore, educate, and thrive together. The real key takeaway here is that we want to empower and support students. We want to give you the resources and the tools. We are not a placement office. We don't put you into jobs. We don't have a list of jobs, but we work together to work with each student. Everybody comes in with unique background, skill set, interests, and we work together to talk about your strategy, give you the resources to really help you be most successful throughout your time at SOM, but also throughout your long-term career. It doesn't end when you graduate from this program. This is overlaid, obviously, with the mission of Yale School of Management to educate leaders for business and society. You can see this is our career development office, how we're broken up. We're about 20 to 25 staff, depending on kind of time and day, but Abigail Keys is our assistant dean. She runs the entire office. And then our office is pretty much split into 2 teams. We have the career education and coaching team, which are really student facing. They are the coaches. They work with students, pretty much as soon as they get accepted, really, as early as June, throughout your entire career. We do have career services for life. So we have coaches that work with alumni, and then again, a strong team that work with students while they're there. I am part of that team. I am a dedicated coach for the asset management program. I also do coach some MBA students as well, but my primary role with coaching is to work with the one-year Master's in Asset Management program. I start working with students again as early as the first week of June. Ooh, skipped ahead on me, sorry about that. And then we have our employer partnerships team, which is more employer facing. I also sit on that team. I'm one of the only people in the office that sit on both teams. So I do work with our employers that cover the asset management space. And so I do a lot of outreach on behalf of both the asset management program, but also on behalf of MBAs more broadly. So again, those are our two teams. Both teams work with our student clubs as well, based on kind of industry alignment. So I work with the Investment Management Club, the PEVC Club, the Impact Investing Club, and then our newest club, Entrepreneurship Through Acquisition. So I want to talk a little bit about sort of the career journey for students while they're at the School of Management. You'll see this is a circle. Obviously you start with, the assess, move into the prepare and the connect, but know that students can be in each of these phases, can be in multiple phases at the same time. And even though this sort of looks like a linear kind of going around, we have students that go back and forth into these different phases, and that's totally normal and expected. I was working with a second-year student who's back in sort of the assess stage, even though, they are a 2-year MBA. They kind of did that 2 years ago, but now they're back there, and that's a good thing. They've learned a lot during their period of time. So while this is kind of a cyclical chart, it does kind of move both ways. But thinking about assess, we start out with a Clifton Strengths exercise that kind of identifies each student's kind of top strengths, and then how you might utilize that as you're thinking about potential careers. We have Explore SOM recordings. These are, different industry-based recordings to give you kind of high-level ideas of what these types of industries might look like. Obviously, we have career coaching that's ongoing. And then you have your classmates. So in addition to the asset management class, you've got your 2-year MBAs, and then the other 1-year programs, the Masters in Advanced Management, Global Business and Society, and then our executive MBAs. So these are all different people that students on campus can leverage and can, again, in this assess, while you're doing your research, while you're really thinking, even though you're here in this, very targeted, specific 1-year asset management program, there's still a lot of different career paths that you may be thinking about. So these are ways for you to help start thinking about those different paths, hearing from people that maybe have done this, whether it's before SOM or if it's an MBA student, maybe in between their first and second year. So a lot of different resources to help you kind of think about those things. Also academics, obviously you're going to be learning within your courses different things about aspects of the industry to help you kind of assess, what do you really enjoy? What are the classes that you try to do the homework first? What are the classes that you're really excited about going to versus maybe classes that you're not so excited about, and why is that? So that's really helping you to kind of assess potential career paths. Preparing. So there's a lot that we do to help students to prepare for their job search. So as I mentioned, as early as June, we start a summer series, and it covers a lot of different topics. These are a few of them: personal branding, search strategy, and networking. You will hear a lot about networking, and I will talk about that more during this session, as especially within asset management, which is more of a self-directed search. Networking is going to be key to that sort of success. We also have the career development website. So that's one of the links that is in the chat. That should be the first link that's there. Most of the information on the website is viewable to anyone. There are a few things that are behind login kind of firewalls, but if you haven't already, I would encourage all of you to go onto that website, both to see what kind of events are happening, but also to see there's an incoming student prep tab where you can see what students did over the summer, what that summer series looked like, what the topics were that were covered. But we really start very, very early working with students to help get them prepared. And especially for a program like asset management that is really 9 months, we call it a 1-year program, but it is really quick. That there are things that you can start doing really, really early. We do understand that students that come to this program, they don't graduate until closer to the start of the program. Some are still working, some are traveling, can't take advantage of all of the summer programming that we offer. and most of it is recorded. But again, if you can, the more you can do in the summer to start preparing is really recommended. And even for those of you, that can't attend the summer series, I also encourage you just to start your proactive outreach, start your networking. As soon as you decide to join this program, reach out to your network, let them know your plans, start getting that ball rolling with those conversations. We also have open hours, so there are asset management specific open hours and then broad SOM open hours. When you're on campus, they're every day in person. Over the summer, they are virtual, but it's an opportunity for any quick questions that you may have. Career coaching, as we've mentioned, we do behavioral mock interviews. The clubs, which I mentioned before, the Investment Management Club is a tremendous resource for students interested in asset management careers. And then for the asset management program itself, there is the colloquium. So you get to hear from high-level senior speaker series, giving you really good high-level kind of broad strokes about what's happening in the industry, what their kind of career path looked like, tips for success, things like that. And then finally, kind of the connect stage. Once you've done your research, once you're really prepared to have these conversations, to start your outreach, and you have, not only your existing networks from whatever you've done pre-SOM, whether you're coming straight from undergraduate, you still have your undergraduate network, and maybe any internships that you did before during undergraduate. And then some of you that have a couple of years experience, you still have that network. So in addition to those, you're now going to get a number of new networks. You have the SOM community, and then also the broader Yale University alumni networks. Coffee chats, employer engagements and networking opportunities, CMS, which we'll talk about, but that's our career management system. So that's where employers post roles, post events. That's where you'll see career events that we do as an office, but that's really kind of your one-stop shop for kind of everything that's happening on campus, and then potential conferences that may be kind of in line with your career aspirations. So again, all of this encompasses, the different levels of support that, we can offer and what you might be doing throughout your time. And again, you'll move throughout this circle in different stages. We definitely make sure students know it doesn't matter what your classmates, where they are in their process. Everybody has their own kind of journey, and that's expected. I had a set again. So again, here's where we can see kind of CDO support. So in the summer, we start with those summer series. We get, kind of career coaching goes throughout the entire year. The resources also through the entire year, as we talked about. We will start that initial resume review process over the summer. We will do the summer series over the summer. Orientation kicks off when you actually get on to campus, and then we do some strategy sessions and programming throughout the year, behavioral mock interviews. You can see late fall into early spring. And then networking, again, that's something that's really, really critical. We started in early fall because that's when we feel that students are really prepared to do that kind of networking externally. But I also encourage students to network with their existing network, not with sort of the new SOM network, but with your existing network, even as early as June, to let them know kind of what they're doing. And then again, from our perspective, the support that we offer is integrated across, all different programs. It is personalized as well. So we know that each student has unique background, skill set, background, and interests. So we will work with you. I will work with asset management students as often as they want to work with me to come up with kind of a personalized approach to their recruitment process. We are flexible in a variety of ways. We offer programming in person as well as virtually. We do a lot of different types of programming to make sure that you are really getting what you need out of the programming: results-oriented, student-centric, collaborative, and comprehensive. Again, there's a lot of big group sessions, but then small group sessions, and then one-on-one. So there's a little bit of everything that we do offer to students. here you can see, so this is the class of 2023, and this is kind of where students went by function. And we use function, you might see in other statistics across the board industry, but I think function is much more important because of the way our industries roll up. Many of these might roll up under investment banking because they might be at large bulge bracket investment banks, but the function that our students are really doing is the functions that you see here, regardless of the industry that they may be in. And that's also something just I encourage students when they're here, when they're searching for jobs, to do a functional search, not just an industry search, because it is possible to get roles that you're really interested in and work that you really want to do in industries that you may not have originally thought about. So again, this is the class of 2023. Class of 2024 data will be available in the next couple of months. But this just gives you kind of a sense of where students are going. This is asset management employers that have hired mostly our graduating MBAs. So this is not specific to the asset management program, but you can just get kind of a sense of the different scope and number of employers in this space that have been engaging and hiring our students. And then here you can see, this is again up to class of 2023. We have some newer employers for class of 2024 that will get added. But just to give you an idea, and this is obviously not every employer that has hired our students, but give you kind of a high level look at some of the top employers that we have seen. And then again, this will be added to for class of 2024, and those functions are within these different organizations. I'm going to turn it over to questions in a minute. I can walk through the website. I also just thought, again, high level timeline for those of you that are interested. Again, this is a 1-year program. And so the timeline may be a little bit different, the recruiting timeline, if you're talking to other programs that have a longer, maybe 18 months or even 2 years. So it does happen fairly quickly. Like I said, we encourage students as early as June to start networking with their existing network, to attend our summer programming sessions, to start really thinking about what kind of career they want, to work with me on resume and story and target list and all of those things, and start to navigate the various resources that exist. In fall, early fall, even as early as August, some of the larger employers that have more structured recruiting processes may be doing some full-time recruitment. So that is typically where I encourage students to spend the bulk of their time in those first few weeks on campus, is identifying kind of full-time opportunities, not really thinking about the practical experience requirement until maybe around this time of year. Then focusing on the practical experience requirement, which typically, would start in January and go through the spring. And then in that January, February timeline to start, thinking about full-time if something was not secured in that early fall. This is the employment site that's on admissions, which hopefully you all have been to. But you can see, so if you go just into the general admissions website, there is a careers and employment tab. And here you can see, a lot of the things that I just talked about, so recruiting in a 9-month program, some of the different tools and resources that are available. And then you can also see some quotes from some alums. You can see, again, some of the different hiring employers that we talked about, some quotes from some different classes. And again, here's a lot of the things that we talked about. Let's see if this takes us. Oh, here we go. So this takes us, hopefully you guys can still see the site. So this is the CDO website. And this will, so there's a ton of information here on this website. I'm just going to call your attention to 2 tabs that I think might be most interested, or maybe 3 actually. But if you go into programs and you can see this incoming student prep tab, all of this is available to all of you right now. It's not behind any sort of firewall of any sort, but this is what, you know, the class of 2024 Masters in Asset Management would have seen once they joined the program. And you can talk about, this is the summer series. You know, we started with your CDO partnership, which is actually quite similar to the session that we're doing today, kind of going through the resources and the timeline, things like that. Strengths, which was the Clifton strengths that we talked about, talking about your story, how to connect the dots for a potential employer, working on your resume, talking about networking in your network, which again, as I mentioned, is something that we talk about a lot. And then, you know, again, here are industry guides that you won't have access to these guides. Those are, you know, just for our students. You can obviously pay for them if you want to on your own, but as a student at SOM, you would have access to all of these guides. But you can see here's, you know, everything that was done. There are different blogs, you know, there's different resources that are available. So I would encourage you, if this is something that you're interested in, to spend a little bit of time to see what that kind of summer program looks like, how that onboarding process works. Then we also have within these industries and affinities, you can see if you go into investing, which I think is where most students in this program would be most interested in terms of kind of that career path. And if you click here into investing, you'll see upcoming events that really are relevant to investing type of opportunities. And then here you can see it broken down by investment management, PE, VC, and impact investing. We've got some blogs and some, you know, different articles that are, you know, maybe of interest. A lot of other things within this section that you can take your time. And then for international students, which we know that, you know, a good number of students in this program are international students, there's a very robust section of our website to help support international students, logistically from the visa sponsorship piece, but also finding US employers, looking for international employers, a lot of information here. So like I said, you know, I would encourage all of you to spend a little bit of time on both of these websites to help get, you know, additional questions that you might have right now to help you kind of get those answered, really help you start thinking about, you know, what it is that, you know, we can offer to you relative to maybe other programs, or maybe you have, you know, a current job that you're debating. Do I stay in this job? Do I not? Or do you have other job offers? So really, you know, a lot of this information is readily available. It's not behind a black curtain. You can have it before you come on campus. We want you to come in with eyes wide open and really understand kind of what is available to you, what we can offer. So I would encourage all of you to spend some time on these websites. So I am going to stop sharing there, and I am going to take a look. I see that there are some questions. So there's one, you know, sort of specific question about, you know, VC in the US and similar cases. Like, you know, absolutely, like students are interested in VC. It really does, you know, not knowing a particular student's background, but it looks like this student is currently working in the VC industry. So I think, you know, that is less of a pivot. That's really more of just a geographical pivot. It all does come back to maintaining those relationships, establishing new relationships, utilizing your current, like if you're working in VC in another country right now and you're looking to transition to VC in the US, to, you know, talk to the people that you're working with now, see if they can make some introductions for you. It is a very relationship-based industry for sure. It's also very unstructured in terms of timeline. A lot of it comes down to when these VCs get funding. So following, you know, resources like CB Insights and looking, you know, to see who just got a round of funding, and, you know, they might be interested in making some hiring. But that's also why having those relationships is so important, because a VC probably always wants to hire, but they don't have the money to do it. And so they're having these conversations, they're getting to know students and candidates that are interested in the space. And as soon as that money comes in, they are ready to go. They want to hire immediately. So if you wait until that happens, it may be too late. So you want to start building those relationships early. So when that funding comes in, you are top of mind for that employer. So hopefully that's helpful for that. Again, I think, any industry, any role, for the most part, is possible. You just want to prepare the right way, utilize your resources, know that, many of these searches are going to be more self-directed than investment banking or consulting. You'll come on campus, you'll see a lot of students pursuing those career paths, and there's a lot of activity directly on campus. There's more of a playbook of exactly what you need to do and when you do it. Whereas within kind of asset management broadly, there is less of that structured playbook. It is a little bit more self-directed. It does take a little bit more time and effort on a student's part to really help identify those opportunities. So question about, least or most roles with visa sponsorship for international students. Again, I would encourage you to go to that international students. You can see employers that have hired international students in the past. I do think that quant roles typically tend to be very flexible in visa hiring, and especially with this program having the STEM designation, that certainly is a benefit for employers that can take advantage of that. But there is My Visa Jobs. There's a few other resources in there. Larger firms typically are more willing to sponsor, but that is not across the board. That is not always the case. Sometimes smaller firms have a little bit more flexibility. It may depend on the candidate. But when you do get access to our career management system, that is information you will easily be able to see. You can sort and filter by employers that do sponsor. You can see employers that have sponsored in the past, but it really does vary. Even some years, there may be an employer that never sponsored before, but now is open to sponsoring STEM candidates, or an employer that has sponsored, the past couple of years and now for one reason or another is not. So I don't think there's sort of a set answer to that. But I do think within finance, we do see a good number of roles that do sponsor. I'm seeing some very specific questions, a pivot from medicine into PE and how to prepare. I think having a very strong background in one particular vertical like medicine gives you an opportunity, healthcare PE, you're going to have the benefit of having that medical healthcare background. But there could be a disadvantage, again, not knowing people's resume and knowing exactly what they've done pre-SOM. Within PE, they typically look for really strong kind of modeling valuation, that kind of traditional investment banking prep. The typical career path into PE is often, investment banking to PE. So that could be a bit of a hurdle. However, you have the strong medical healthcare piece that could be a benefit. So that's something that, I would encourage you to come in and make a coaching appointment, and we would sort of talk through how to leverage your past experience to really help in that search. So again, a question about firms that target Yale Asset Management specifically and might routinely recruit. This is a newer program. Hopefully you all know that. And so we don't have years and years of history, but we are working on that. You can see the employer list. You can also look, at asset management alums on LinkedIn and things like that to get a sense. Because asset management is a broad industry and each year students come in with a wide variety of career paths that we're looking for, we don't have large volumes of numbers going to the same firms each year, but we are working to build relationships with all of these firms and hoping that as we get more and more alums placed, we will see, more traction at, some core employers. 9-month program. Students applying to NG jobs, I'm not sure. But so I think the question is really about not having a summer internship to do. And, in reality, that is a challenge for this program. Many employers in the US do hire out of summer internship programs, and this program just doesn't offer that opportunity. For students in the US that are at US schools, some of them can do an internship between graduating and starting this program, but for the most part, many of our students, don't have that opportunity. And so there is, a little bit more creative outreach that's necessary. You can look at the employment report. Our students have been successful in full-time recruiting processes. It may just look a little bit different from counterparts at schools that do offer the summer internship, but it is something, that is just, it's something to be well aware of coming into this program, that getting a summer internship after you've graduated from this program is very unlikely to happen. It can happen. There are some employers that on occasion will hire somebody and then directly place them for full-time after the summer. But for the most part, most employers that are looking for summer interns are looking for somebody with one more year of school to go back to. So definitely something to be aware of. There's a lot of support, again, I mean, this question about support, there's a lot of support. Faculty connections within firms, I think, is a tricky one. I'm not sure that faculty, this is a large program, there's a lot of students that are interested in employers that maybe our faculty are working at. And so very difficult for them to sort of push on behalf of any one student. Just like myself, I would never push on behalf of any one or two students to an employer, even if I have a great relationship. I'm really supporting the program as any of our faculty would be. So the one good thing is that those employers where we do have faculty members should be very aware of this program and understand the rigor and who you're learning from, and really appreciate kind of the education that you're getting through this program. Would this degree help to break into PE as a mid-career banking and risk professional, not investment banking? So again, a lot of these questions are very, very specific. So I'm trying to answer them because they're the questions that are coming through. These would definitely be questions that I would encourage students to come in for a coaching session. The degree itself has a lot of flexibility in terms of the coursework you can take. So first semester, absolutely, there's a lot of core requirements. Second semester, there's a lot of opportunity to take elective courses. So it can definitely help get into kind of any different area. As I think I said with a previous question with PE, oftentimes, the traditional path is investment banking into PE, but I would never tell a student that you can't get into PE without investment banking. This program could be, a good pipeline into PE, but it would really depend. Again, I would have to look at this student's particular resume to really understand what their background and skill set is, what they've done, and then what their story is of why PE, why this program, what are they doing. There's the PEVC club, taking on leadership roles, really working there, other opportunities, getting an internship in PE. So this program is a good path into a variety of different careers, but it really is going to depend on the individual student, and what their background is and kind of what their overall story is for these opportunities. As of right now, those are most of the questions that have come through. Give it another minute to see if anyone has any others. Double check that I covered them all. Oh, I see one. What are some of the skills or knowledge you suggest a student should build in preparation for the program? So that's a great question. From a technical standpoint, there is kind of a summer boot camp that, students are asked to participate in that just brings them it level sets the class so that everybody kind of comes in at least within the same kind of band of technical background. But in terms of from a career perspective, I think most importantly is taking advantage of the resources that we offer as early as possible. So As I mentioned earlier, you get access to our resources as early as kind of the first week of June. You get access to me as a career coach. We have the summer series and all of those things that are currently behind a firewall. Once you're an admitted student, and that June date rolls around, you have access to all of that. So I would encourage over the summer for students to be making sure that their existing network is aware that they're coming to Yale, what they're studying, what they're doing, what they're interested in, because those people already know you. You don't, this is not cold outreach. These are people that already like you, that already know you're talented, and are perhaps willing to make some introductions for you. So that's kind of an easy, low-hanging fruit. And then, getting your resume, we offer, resume review right away. So taking advantage of that, you'll see if you go onto that incoming student prep site, we have a full checklist, for each program. We make it really, really easy for all of the things that we expect or we hope that you will do prior to coming on campus, especially for these one-year programs that we know move really, really quickly. And so again, understand that some students have other commitments over the summer that make it difficult, but for those of you that can, to take as much advantage of the resources over the summer, all of the guides to, investment management, PE, VC, hedge funds, whatever it is that you're interested in. Build your target list. Start thinking about who you might outreach to. Start thinking about your story. Work with me on, on that story, on your materials, on cover letters, all of those things, so that when you actually start applying, some of these things you've already done. And also once classes start, right? The first week or so of classes, you get a little bit of a pass, but things, kick in really, really quickly. We also want to make sure that you have time to have, a social network. You're coming here not just for the academics and not just for the career, but also, to meet new students, to enjoy New Haven, to enjoy US. So really trying to set yourself up so that you're not feeling completely overwhelmed once classes do start. Um, what's the recommended experience, academic background of students who join hedge funds like Bridgewater? And I think there's a really wide variety. I mean, even at Bridgewater, there's a lot of different roles that students can go into. I would definitely encourage you to look at some of our alumni and who are at Bridgewater and see kind of what they've done, and not just our alums, but just, go to LinkedIn and look at Bridgewater and look at people that are in roles that you're interested in, and to get a sense of what their background was. What are the things that they've done? And if there are people that you know that are within your network already, reach out to them for tips. But then once you're ready in sort of August, September, to start that proactive outreach and asking them, what are courses that you would recommend? There's a ton of courses that are available to students at SOM. And so there's a lot of opportunity to kind of tailor based on the roles that you're interested in. I think we have 3 minutes left. So if there's one more question, maybe. Okay, another question about what to do before joining. I think I covered this off. I think, really taking advantage of your existing network right away, but then the resources that we offer. Again, we give a lot of resources over the summer. There's a lot on that website that I shared with you that you can, start accessing now. And really just being prepared, knowing what you're targeting, having kind of a plan A, but then also maybe some parallel paths, have an idea of who you might want to reach out to, get a sense now of who's hiring, even though you're not here now. Like, look at the websites of your target employers and see like who has full-time hiring needs. What does their timeline look like, so that you're prepared when you come on campus to know these are employers that seem like they open their applications in August, so I need to really be prepared. Or these are employers that are really doing more just-in-time recruiting in the spring. And so It's really going to be March or April, probably, before I'm doing recruiting for there. So, really leveraging those resources. I saw one other quick one, networking opportunities on campus. Yes, we do. Many of our networking opportunities are virtual. It just makes it easier being in New Haven to get a wider net of employers that can easily join these types of events. We do some in person. We also do some in person in New York every February. We do a networking event in New York City that students are invited to attend, and it's multi-industry, not just asset management, but it's a great event. We have a networking event coming up on October 24th, which is virtual. And then we have some single employer engagements. We had an employer quant hedge fund that was just on campus last week. We've had, larger mutual funds come on campus. So again, we don't see as many targeted one employer events on campus as you do see for some of the other larger structured investment banking and consulting, but they do exist, and they do come. And so that's something that you would access through CMS. You would see all upcoming events, whether they're single employer events or multi-employer virtual events, in person or virtual, et cetera. And that's something you would have access to. And asset management students have the same access as any other second year MBA student at the School of Management. So it's not different because you're in this one-year program. You have the same access to all events as all students, same access to join clubs. All of that is the same. So I know we're right at time. We're actually a minute over. I really want to thank everyone for joining. I know you're all going to have a lot of really great, options ahead of you. And so, I really hope you'll strongly consider this program, think about some of the things we talked about, go to our websites, really make sure you understand kind of what it is that we are offering. And I wish you all the best of luck, and maybe I'll see some of you on campus next year.